Good morning and welcome to News Lounge. I'm Miles Maguire.
And I'm Maritza Munoz. Good morning.
And joining us this morning from our sports desk is our sports and weather girl, Monica O'Hanlon. What have you got for us this morning?
G'day guys, I've got some exciting sports news, but I won't give away too much, so that's all coming up today.
Sounds exciting, Monica. We also have foodie Natasha Mirosh and a special guest coming up later in the show.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great show. But first, over to Catherine with the news. What have you got for us today, Catherine?
A little bit of tragedy coming from the Schoolies week at Gold Coast, but we'll get straight into that right now. Making news today on Friday the 23rd of November 2012. A Melbourne property bought with stolen union funds by Julia Gillard's former boyfriend has been connected to the Prime Minister. A blank document faxed to Miss Gillard in March 1993 shows her involvement in organising insurance for this property. Miss Gillard previously denied any knowledge of the mortgage. In tragic news from Surfers Paradise overnight, a 17-year-old girl has plunged 22 stories to her death after falling from the balcony of the Chevron Renaissance. The circumstances surrounding the incident are being investigated. Police Superintendent Pat Swindles says that it was a tragic end to an otherwise successful Schoolies week. The Queensland Government has announced it will offer a formal apology regarding forced adoption policies at Parliament House on Tuesday the 27th of November. Premier Campbell Newman will be making an apology on behalf of the Parliament. He says he believes the adoption policies were immoral and should never have happened. The apology will be made at 12:30 p.m. This year's White Ribbon campaign has gained further support, with Queensland Health encouraging all Queenslanders to get behind the campaign. Health Minister Lawrence Springborg said White Ribbon Day is a visual reminder to the community that domestic and family violence and violence against women and children will not be tolerated. The government has released this ad as part of the campaign.
Every week, at least one Australian woman dies from domestic violence.
It happens all the time, doesn't it? I just give her a backhand, usually shuts her up.
But there is something you can do about it. Because thousands of good men have got your back.
Hey, mate.
Swear an oath this White Ribbon Day to put a stop to violence against women. Visit whiteribbon.org.au.
To support White Ribbon Day, make sure you wear a ribbon on Sunday the 25th of November. For more information, visit whiteribbon.org.au. Brisbane's ATMs have been targeted by fraudsters using a highly sophisticated card skimming technology, putting thousands of people's accounts at risk. Targeting shoppers withdrawing cash over the busy Christmas period, the technology was installed over the top of ATM card slots across Queen Street Mall. Detective Superintendent Brian Hay of the Fraud Squad said this is the first time police have seen these devices in Australia. New research conducted by James Cook University has found that the human heart can survive a lethal box jellyfish sting. The findings suggest that the human heart cells can fully recover after 4 hours, despite the venom killing 70% of cells. In addition, it was not known exactly what part of the venom was fatal, but researchers have been able to isolate a significant portion. Researchers hope technology and CPR methods can integrate this information, saving lives in the process. A 3-year-long study of bull sharks conducted by Griffith University has found the creatures prefer natural river systems to man-made canals. These findings have also stressed the importance of sustaining natural waterways to keep the sharks away from humans. Sharks were tracked in the Nerang River and Gold Coast Canal systems for the study. Police were kept busy last night at Schoolies on the Gold Coast when a violent brawl broke out in Cavill Mall. Two teenage boys were badly hurt and 20 Schoolies arrested for public nuisance and street offences. There were also 36 non-Schoolies arrested last night with charges of being drunk in public, public nuisance and drug use. Last night was the most violent night so far, taking the number of arrests to 120. A stockman who killed his 88-year-old employee in far north Queensland has been convicted of manslaughter. 61-year-old Robert John Wilson, who repeatedly struck and shot Mount Garban grazier David Thornton in March 2010, pleaded not guilty to the charge of murder. Yesterday, Cairns Supreme Court found Wilson guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter, stating Wilson's bipolar disorder satisfied the test for diminished responsibility in Queensland. Justice Jim Henry accepted Wilson had no recollection of the incident and that his mental condition had played a material role in the killing. Wilson has been sentenced to 8 years in prison but will be eligible for release in March after already serving part of his sentence. Rising power prices and static funding will see Meals on Wheels in Sunnybank shut down if alternative funding isn't found. President Ross Broom says rising costs have put a lot of pressure on the volunteer-run organisation. The federal member for Moreton, Graham Perrott, is urging the organisation to apply for volunteer grants. A 36-year-old man has been charged for 2 attempted murders during a brawl in far north Queensland. In the midst of the fight, a woman had her arm slashed and a man suffered lacerations to his body. The man charged was shot on Monday night at his home and now faces a bedside court hearing in Cairns-based hospital today. Police say all 3 people knew each other and investigations are continuing. A community meeting has been held in the far north Queensland Miller town to discuss the future of a coffin-shaped toilet in a local cemetery. The toilet does not comply with disability standards. However, the president of the town's Chamber of Commerce, Pat Reynolds, says he has collected signatures of support for the toilet from 90% of the town's residents. That's all we've got in news for today. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Kathy.
Catherine. Let's find out what's happening around the country in weather. What's in store for us, Monica?
Thanks, guys. Brisbane is in for a partly cloudy day today with the chance of a shower or 2. We will see light to moderate northeasterly winds with a top of 28 degrees in the city and 27 about the Bayside. Looking forward to the weekend, we can expect mostly fine days with the chance of showers. There will be a top of 28 on Saturday and 27 on Sunday. The Gold Coast will be partly cloudy with a shower or 2 and a top of 27. The Sunshine Coast will also experience a partly cloudy day at 27 degrees. Ipswich is in for a shower or 2 with a warm up to 30 degrees. Around the state now, Cairns can expect a mostly fine day with a possible morning shower and a top of 32. Townsville fine and sunny. Mostly sunny and also a top of 32. Mackay is fine and partly cloudy with a top of 31. Rockhampton mostly fine with a possible shower and a top of 31. Mount Isa will experience a late storm after another warm day with the barometer topping 39. And in other capital cities around the country today, Sydney will be partly cloudy with a maximum temperature of 23. Melbourne sunny with a top of 27. Canberra will be mostly sunny and 26. Perth partly cloudy and 26. Adelaide also partly cloudy and a top of 23. Hobart will be partly cloudy and 21 degrees. Darwin will experience an afternoon shower or storm and a top of 34. That's all we've got time for today, so back to you guys.
Thanks, Monica. Looks like it's going to be a great weekend. It's time to go to the break, but don't go away. When we return, we'll be talking to foodie Natasha Mirosh. That's coming up.
Welcome back to News Lounge. Well, as always, it's time for us to go to our favourite Friday foodie, Natasha Mirosh. What have you got for us today, Natasha?
I've got a couple of recommendations for the weekend. A few new bars that have opened around Brisbane. For whiskey lovers, head down to the Emporium where Nant Whiskey Bar has recently opened. You can taste around 140 different whiskies from there.
Wow.
If you're more into cider, a new cider bar is opening in Fortitude Valley this weekend. It also sells cider from all around the world as well as wine. And the third one is in the Gabba. There's a new wine bar that's been opened in Stanley Street East called O'Lear, which is worth checking out. So there's some things to do over the weekend.
Thanks, Natasha. Sounds great. And I do believe you've brought a guest in today.
I have. My guest today is Katrina. And Katrina Ryan owns the Golden Pig Cookery School in Newstead.
Excellent. So, Katrina, what is the school that you run and how did you come up with the really great name for it?
Well, it's a food and wine school, so we're holding predominantly cooking classes that are open to the public, and next year we'll see some wine, beer, spirit appreciation classes as well as some food and wine matching.
So it looks like quite an unusual space. What was it before?
It's been a warehouse for a while. I think there's an artist, actually, his wife, they're both artists that own it, and they lived in it for a little while and ran a business from it. But when we took it over, it had motorbikes in it, motorbike storage.
Oh, wow.
So it was blacked out completely, and yeah, we've opened it up.
Did it take long to transform it from a warehouse into what it is now?
It took a few months. We had to reline the ceiling and get all the council approvals, put in a grease trap and put in a big central kitchen.
So you have a strong background in Asian cooking. Where did this come from?
I learned to cook in Sydney quite a few years ago now with Neil Perry, and Neil always has great interest in Asian cooking. I learned a lot through him and through David Thompson, who's a really fabulous Thai chef. And I've worked at Spirit House for the last 10 years, teaching classes there. So I've been really honing my Asian skills and travelling a bit to Asia as well.
Fair enough.
What other sort of cuisines do you teach?
We've got a whole range of classes. We've got some Italian classes, sort of basic Italian, Greek, French, Moroccan, Middle Eastern, all sorts.
What's proving to be the most popular?
Actually, our Spanish tapas class is pretty popular at the moment. Spanish food's sort of going through a real renaissance. And one of the sort of classic Thai classes has been really popular as well.
Mm-hmm. I guess people don't know a lot about Thai cooking still and sort of assume that it's quite a complicated cuisine to make.
It is more complicated, and I think learning about the balance of flavours is something that a lot of people take a while to grasp. I love teaching that because it's more interesting, but also a lot of the ingredients that we use in Asian cooking, they grow readily in southeast Queensland, so it's a really fabulous cuisine to be able to have a few things in the garden, go and pick them and then use them in your cooking.
It's very fresh.
Very fresh, very zingy, very lively.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that the MasterChef effect, as people call it, has been drawing people to go and seek out cooking classes?
I'm sure it has, and I think there's just a general thirst for knowledge with cooking as well. People love to be able to eat delicious food, and if you can make it for yourself, then all the better.
Do you think part of it maybe come from the kind of changing family dynamics, that we don't have our mothers and grandparents teaching us anymore, so people just don't know how to cook?
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure it's pretty rare, I think, for a lot of families to actually sit down and have an evening meal every night with kids, and often they're all doing different things. But yeah, look, I think it's certainly helping people to get back into eating great meals together.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you're finding people lack skills in the kitchen?
Often basic knife skills. Sometimes they're not very good at cleaning up after themselves. Also looking after produce. A lot of people aren't really sure how to store herbs or where to put things in the fridge so that they get the maximum freshness out of them.
Do you have any kitchen or cooking suggestions you can maybe pass along to us? Because
yes.
we were
Yesterday we were bragging
about
about our toast and spaghetti skills.
So if there's anything we might be able to improve on?
Well, a few tips. I've got lots of tips. If you're entertaining with people, don't try and cook something really tricky that you've never cooked before. Try and cook something you've already done. Be super organised. Have everything ready. Plan a little bit. Write lists. Get things done ahead of time. That certainly helps. A good tip with meat, I always make sure as much as you can, make sure it's at room temperature before you cook it, before you sear steaks on the barbecue, put a leg of lamb in the oven. You'll end up with a much better result. We think of resting meat afterwards. It brings the core of the flesh. It's not so cold, especially if you want to cook it rare or medium rare, so that it cooks more evenly from the outside in. And you're not going to end up with it sort of really well cooked on the outside and very raw still in the middle.
Would that work for chicken as well, or is it dangerous to leave chicken?
It's probably more dangerous to leave chicken out for too long, but you can certainly bring it up to temperature a little bit.
So what are some of the cuisines that are a bit more basic if you're just a novice cook and you just wanted to start off and eventually get into the MasterChef stage? What cuisines would you recommend trying first?
I don't think you can get much simpler than Italian, but it really relies on great produce, and it can be prepared very simply, just seared, maybe a sauce made to complement it. But it's a really fantastic cuisine. It's incredibly simple. In fact, I find teaching Italian classes challenging because there's not that much to do. Asian classes, everyone's chopping all different ingredients and things, whereas Italian, it is really fabulously simple.
And Katrina, you've got a pretty eclectic resume of different places you've worked. Can you tell us a bit about some of the places where you have been working?
So after I worked with Neil Perry when I started cooking, I worked overseas for a little bit with my husband, who was a chef, and we had a couple of restaurants in Sydney. They were the Pig and the Olive, Italian style, Mediterranean sort of pizzas.
Yeah.
And then I've been did a little bit else around Sydney and overseas with different chefs, and then most of the last 10 years or so I've been at Spirit House.
I believe you were a private cook for Tom and Nicole as well. Tell us about that.
When they were together.
You were instrumental in breaking them up.
No, had nothing to do with that. Yes, I was their personal chef when they came out on holidays. So I'd do all their shopping and leave food for them in the refrigerator or cook the odd dinner party.
Did they have any special requests?
They didn't eat a lot of red meat. And they liked organic produce, so I always tried to buy everything organic when I could.
There we go.
Thank you so much for that.
Well, thanks very much for your time, guys. I'm actually feeling pretty hungry.
Me too. Listening to all that food talk, better book us in for a class, I think.
Yeah, I think we're desperately in need of it, so we'll hopefully be
Thanks,
seeing
guys.
you
I'll see you soon then.
See you soon. We'll be back soon with the sport report and a bit of Friday fun. Don't go away.
Foodie Natasha Murosh and Katrina Ryan of the Golden Pig Cooking School, and it's definitely made me realise I need to head along to a basics class possible.
Well.
But first up, it's time to see what's happening in the sport. What have you got for us today, Monica?
Thanks, guys. In Test cricket news, Australia dominated New Zealand play, finishing 5 for 482 on the first day of the second Test at Adelaide Oval. The thrashing saw a second double century to skipper Michael Clarke and valuable tons to Mike Hussey and Dave Warner. Play continues this morning. Promising Bulls paceman Chris Lynn suffered a blow to the groin after edging a Doug Bellinger delivery on Wednesday night. He has taken to hospital and cleared of any damage, but not before heading to rescue Queensland, who were in serious trouble at Fort 109 when he came to bat. He's not contained one boundary and 4 massive sixes, all the more impressive as he was doubled over in pain at one point from the groin injury. Former Warriors and Brisbane NRL player Joel Moon has been added to the lead squad of the European Super League as they attempt to defend their title in 2013. Leeds have paid Moon an undisclosed sum to play in 2013, the signing making him their second off-season player, signing alongside Australian Mitch Archurch. Leeds coach Brian McDermott said they had been monitoring Moon for a while and it's great to bring him to the club. Socceroos head coach Holger Osik has announced a provisional squad who will represent Australia at the 2013 East Asian Cup. Brisbane Roar's Matt Smith, Ivan Franjic and Men O'Halloran will join the rest of the team when training begins in Sydney on Monday. The tournament kicks off to December 3rd, Australia playing Hong Kong at Mong Kok Stadium. 11 powerlifters from Everton Hills Strength Sports Gym aim to succeed at the Matty Ticker Powerlifting Challenge this weekend. The Matty Ticker Challenge ranks as the largest tournament in the Queensland calendar and will be contested in Brisbane. Strength Sports Gym comprises of 40 powerlifters, weightlifters and strongman competitors. Australia will host next year's Ashes cricket opener against England 12 weeks after the teams are scheduled to finish their series in the UK. Cricket Australia today announced the dates for the 2013-14 edition of the sport's oldest international rivalry, with the first match starting on the 21st of November in Brisbane. Further tests will take place in Adelaide, Perth and Melbourne, with the series final in Sydney scheduled to finish on the 7th of January in 2014. England, which holds the Ashes after a 3-1 away victory in 2010-2011, will host Australia in the UK next year in a 5-match series finishing on the 25th of August. That's all we have time for in sport today. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Monica. A bit of a cricket fan yourself. Going to head along?
You know, I am a bit, but I can tell you I'm getting a bit excited just thinking about it.
I think from what I was gathering while you guys were writing the news, you're getting a bit more excited about Michael Clarke than the actual sport itself.
Oh, this is true. I've always been a bit of a Clarkey fan.
All right, well, now we have another very special guest joining us. We will be talking with our boss, Scott Black, and host of the night show about Freaky Friday and all the wacky news we've got. Morning, Scott.
Morning. I didn't realise there was a 10:30 in the morning as well. So I'm used to the night one, but not so much morning.
And Scott, we also know that today is Thanksgiving back in the States.
It is.
Are you celebrating that today at all?
Well, no, unfortunately. Usually you have to prepare a very large meal, and I just couldn't be bothered, especially for breakfast. It's just too big. But won't be doing it for this evening either. But called home, everyone's properly stuffed, watching football. So, you know, everyone's happy. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good to hear. So tell us, what's coming up on the late night show this week?
Late night show, which, well, we had our one last night, which was hilarious. Sorry, I just see there's a lot of our faces here, and I'm used to talking to them. No, we normal stuff, inappropriate humor that's not for children, so make sure they're not watching. And guest comedians. We had a very fantastic comedian on this evening. You'll be able to catch a repeat on Saturday, who is laughing his way through cerebral palsy. He's got, you know, and he's been dealing with his whole life and decided not to feel sorry for himself, but to get up on stage and do jokes about it. So. We've got a lot of different stuff coming up on Late Night Show, so always check it out.
I think what all our viewers want to know is there ever going to be a Late Night Show and News Lounge crossover, maybe with Stephen J. Whiteley sitting in the corner taking a shot of whiskey every time we mention Campbell Newman?
I'm sure he'd be properly prepared before he even showed up. But yeah, I don't see why not. Like I said, I see a lot of the same faces behind the cameras that are here. Even I think you guys stole a couple of riders, but that's fine. We apologize. That's all right. We do all right. I mean, anyone who's got a good sophomoric sense of humor likes doo-doo jokes, and then you roll at home on a late night show.
Well, we know that you're a man who likes to keep abreast of the news, so we've got some wacky and wonderful stories for you to weigh in on today.
Alrighty.
Following up on what we were talking about yesterday, billionaire Clive Palmer has warned Councillor Russell Green that it would be hurting his career if he does not permit him to erect 150 life-size dinosaurs. Thoughts, opinions, feelings?
I love Clive Palmer because he goes from that perfect borderline between being absolutely bat crap crazy to having some decent ideas. And I reckon he always does the crazy stuff to get the attention for the good ideas, but he's just a giant kid, and I use that term literally in his case, who just, I can say it, he's one of mine. He always, like, the world is his sandbox. When you have that much money, the world is your sandbox. And he's like, I want to put some giant friggin' dinosaurs on my resort, and you're not going to stop me. And it's like, well, what about this world, PGA tournament that everyone in the world's going to see? They're going to see dinosaurs, and it's like, so I say let's bring on the dinosaurs and make golf interesting for once.
It would definitely make golf interesting. We also have a story from your home country of America. A 68-year-old Californian man has taken marital disputes to a new level when he was charged with killing and cooking his wife. Police uncovered the gruesome scene after responding to complaints from neighbours about a foul odor coming from the home of 73-year-old victim Anna Farris and her husband Frederick Hengel. Upon entering the couple's residence, police found Mrs. Farris's body parts cooking on the stove in 3 separate pans and her head in the freezer.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I reckon, is divorce too hard for some people? I was like, well, I could, easily go and fill in a form, or I could cook her.
Well, for the sake of good taste,
Hey.
we'll move on to our next story about Octomum. Did you know that her Spawn have released a Christmas single?
Really? I can only assume it's like Elvin and the Chipmunks on acid. Yeah, this woman will do anything to hold on to the limelight. She's almost like Donald Trump, but without the money. She'll just say and do pretty much anything. I mean, she did an adult film recently, which thankfully I've managed to miss. She's released her own signal. She hasn't anything to keep on. 15 minutes going for another 30 seconds, I think.
Terrific. Well, thanks very much for joining us today, Scott. It was certainly great to hear your opinion.
Very entertaining stories around. Remember to watch the Late Night Show 9:30 p.m. on Thursdays, and make sure you tune in next Monday at 10:30 a.m. to join us once again for News Lounge.
That's right. We'll see you then.
Have a great weekend.